We have all heard of drag queens, whether this be from glittering stages across the world, late-night TV, the vibrant world of RuPaul's Drag Race, or the defiant glamour of Pride parades. But drag is more than what is revealed to the naked eye. It is more than sequins and show-stopping lip syncs. It is more than heels and wigs, costumes and contour, brunches and bingo nights. It's resistance. It's survival. It's art. Drag began out of necessity, although that's not to say its participants didn't enjoy it. When Shakespearean theatre first lit its lanterns in the late 16th and early 17th centuries, the stage was more than a sight of spectacle. It was sacred ground. Closely tethered to the church and its rigid doctrines, it bore strict rules. Only men were permitted to perform. And so, when a script called for daughters, mothers, lovers or queens, it fell to the young men of the troupe to transform. And so dressed in gowns and wigs, adopting feminine voices, dragging their silk cloaks across the floor, the word drag was born. After Shakespearean stages dimmed and the candlelight of Tudor theatres faded into history, the tradition of men portraying women didn't vanish. It shifted. It began to echo in vaudeville halls, music halls and smoky cabarets, often as caricature, often for laughs, but always as a way of bending gender on stage. Then came the roaring 1920s. Jazz blared into the streets and the world, briefly, wanted to dance. In America, the Prohibition era birthed secret spaces, underground clubs where drag queens were not only accepted, but celebrated. This was the pansy craze. Queer performers dazzled the elites in cities like New York and Los Angeles. But that golden moment faded. As the Great Depression cast its shadow and conservatism tightened its grip, these performers were pushed back underground. Laws criminalised cross-dressing and raids became routine. People were beaten, arrested, outed, lives destroyed. And still, no matter how hard the world tried to knock it down, erase it, force conformity, drag lived on. And then, June 1969, Stonewall. When police raided the Stonewall Inn in New York's Greenwich Village, something snapped. The community fought back. And on the front lines were not the polished politicians or the carefully closeted. They were drag queens. They were trans women. They were sex workers, runaways, outsiders. People like Marsha P. Johnson.
Darling, I want my gay right now!
And Sylvia Rivera threw bricks, refused to be silent, and ignited a revolution. From that fire rose the first Pride marches. And in the years that followed, drag evolved not just as an art form, but as a battle cry, a refusal to be erased. In the 1980s, the ballroom scene in Harlem gave birth to a new kind of drag. Not for comedy, not for applause, but for realness. Queer youth, mostly black and Latino, found family in houses, led by drag mothers and fathers. At drag balls they vogued, walked, posed, and became the fantasies the world denied them. Executives, models, stars. Their power wasn't in being accepted, it was in refusing to ask for permission. In the 2000s and beyond, drag exploded into the mainstream. RuPaul's Drag Race took what had once been whispered in alleyways and shouted it across the world. Suddenly, queens were household names. Average families were tuning in every week to watch drag queens unapologetically advocate for and celebrate queer freedom. Yet even now, in the age of fame and global tours, drag is still under threat. Laws banning drag performances, protests outside libraries and schools, politicians claiming drag is dangerous. But here's the truth. Drag has always been dangerous. To systems that fear difference, to people who police identity, to silence that hopes to hold us down. To understand what drag means in this moment, to feel its heartbeat, I sat down with someone who embodies its spirit.
Hiya, my name's Ian Lilly, also known as Eileen Eiffell, and I am a drag queen.
Hello, world.
Interestingly enough, the first time I ever encountered drag, I think I was about 7. So my dad used to be a teacher, and he used to take school trips away. One of the nights, they did a Miss Belgium beauty contest, where they got the boys dressing in drag, and they were then doing this beauty pageant. And my dad hosted it in drag. And I ended up being dressed up by the girls in girls' clothing to take part in the competition. So I thank my dad for getting me in drag for the first time. Gender was very much the heteronormative image that a lot of kids get. And I'm from the valleys of South Wales, so where men were men and women looked after them. So it's very rugby orientated. So anything I ever heard about anyone being different was usually an insult. So I grew up thinking there was something wrong with me because I didn't think the way that everybody else did. I think a lot of kids have grown up with that, where you spend your whole life pretending to be something and lying because you're afraid of who you are. So when I was at university, so I went to university and I studied veterinary medicine. Not quite what you expect a drag queen to have studied. But I went to a party, which was Come As You Are in 10 Years' Time party. So I went as a veterinary surgeon in drag. And I only did that for a laugh, not even thinking I would ever end up doing drag afterwards. Christ, what was my first performance? Proper one as me as a drag queen. I think it might have been... It was appalling. It was absolutely appalling because I didn't know what I was doing. I was nervous. I kept second guessing everything. I didn't have the confidence to just trust in myself. So what was my first performance like in drag? Messy. At a wedding. I think a lot of people want to hide who they are through drag. I use drag to be myself completely. It's not so much a persona, it's just a license for me to be who I am and to say what I want to say. And people think that's wonderful when you're in drag. Not so much when you're just boy presenting. When I first did drag, it was more about the comedy of it. As drag has evolved, has it become more mainstream, and it's like more out there, and the perception of drag and what you should look like as a drag queen has changed. So have I. And I think it's more about... I put a lot more effort into looking good now, I think, than I ever did. Still funny as but that's not the emphasis. The emphasis, I think, now is a little bit, dare I say it, sexy. I'm going through a phase. God, if only it was a phase, my parents would be happy. I'm going through a phase where I used to buy loads of material. I was always making something new. Now, yeah, I'm always making something new or doing something new, but I'm recycling. I'm taking stuff and just going, right, I'm not getting rid of it. I'm going to give it a new lease of life, and I'm not spending money on it, because drag can be expensive. I'll have an idea, and then I will draw, design, think about it, overthink it, not sleep because I'm thinking about it, and wondering, well, how can I do this bit, how can I do that bit, should I change that bit, because then maybe that won't work, but then I know how to do that. So that's the kind of thing that goes on. Then I'll start making it, and then sometimes goes perfectly and I create exactly what I drew. And sometimes I'll start it and it'll end up as a completely different outfit because the material I'd chosen could never do what I'd drawn. Currently, single, available to mingle. Doesn't have to be one at a time. But my long-term previous partner, he was a makeup artist at the time, and he absolutely loved the fact I did drag and was obsessed with then learning how to do drag makeup himself. In fact, I'd leave him at home and I'd suddenly get a photo and he'd contour boobs on himself. And he's like, I've done it, I've worked it out. My relationship with gender and sexuality. I don't think it makes any difference about sexuality. I think sexuality is just who you're attracted to. So unless I start getting attracted to myself and that questions my orientation, I think it's a very personal thing, gender. I don't consider myself non-binary. I consider myself like a man. But I think too many people now don't consider a man to be effeminate. They think if you're effeminate, you can't be a man. You can't be male. You've got to be something else. I'm like, no, men can be whatever. And I consider myself, my gender, male. And even in drag, I'm always reminding people that I am a man. It's like, this is what men look like. Men can look like this. Stop thinking that you have this binary, that's a female, that's a man. No, sex can have a gender expression of anything. Well, inherently, yes, it is political. It's like drag was used to be able to communicate. Because they were like the spokespeople for the queer community. So they do have a political history. I think nowadays, not so much. I think drag's become more, well, it's become more mainstream and it's changed. Drag has changed a fuck of a lot over the years. And I think it has been watered down a lot. I think the responsibilities of drag queens of the past and the influence they had in the past is forgotten by a lot of the younger queens nowadays. I think it should be everybody's responsibility to be political and to be informed. It's not one area. If you want rights, educate yourself, because that's the only way you're going to fight for them. There are a lot of kids who think they're a drag queen just because they put some makeup on and a bikini. That's not drag, I don't think. Drag is more than an outfit. It's a whole being able to look at the world and reflect it back in a way to allow the world to laugh at itself, whilst also quietly, at a moment later, just thinking about that a little bit more and going, there's going to be a truth under that somewhere. I think drag's responsibility is to make people think or question, am I being a The whole image of what a drag queen is has evolved, like everything, and doesn't have to be exaggerated anymore. There's a lot of drag queens out there which are very femme, very natural looking. And then there are others that are completely over the top, and there's a whole range between that. There's this, I guess you can now say you're on the drag spectrum, which is kind of interesting. Maybe that is like now as a mental disorder. Do you have dragism? In case, which kind of dragism do you have? Do you have the scantily clad dragism? Do you have the big hair dragism? So what makes somebody a drag queen? Very often them saying that they are a drag queen. So I've been doing a lot of stuff with UAL, University of Arts London. And I was doing this night there, and afterwards we went, so I was like, let's go for a drink after. So we went to this pub, and it's an Arsenal pub. And it was a match night, so it was like full of Arsenal supporters. And the woman on the door was like, I don't think it'd be a good idea for you to come in. At which point, you got every man in that pub going, let her in. And she's like, well, look, okay, right, go in. If you have any trouble, just let me know straight away. We went in, and then it was just, everyone wanted a photo. Everyone wanted to talk. And she came up and she went, I'm so sorry. I completely judged what everyone would do before even letting you, find out. And we had free drinks the whole night. Since then, I've been booked and performed at that pub. And the only people that have ever had a problem with me in drag are cis straight women. They feel kind of threatened for some reason, and I don't get it. It's like, bitch, I am obviously a man. But I'm just... I was at that pub that I was talking about, the Arsenal pub. This girl went past. She wasn't even in the pub. She went past and she saw me. She went, what the hell is that? And I'm like, I am over here. Nothing to do with you. Why would you even bother?
So here we are. I'm at Eileen Eiffell, as you already know. Unless, of course, you've got amnesia or dementia. Or you just weren't listening originally. But I'm here at Zodiac Bar on a Thursday night. We're going to be serving you up some bingo, where you could win a £75 bar tab. God, I got into the spiel. Let's see what happens tonight.
Red the towel boy, come on, explore me. Come and stick your tongue here. It's gonna happen, sometime. Maybe this time, you're in.
If you don't question stuff, then you're obviously not thinking about it. And I think if you're not questioning it, you're not putting enough effort in. Is that like, am I good enough? Oh god, that's the first actually, am I good enough? If for us in the UK, we're born so fortunate that people don't have a huge problem with drag. So the UK's grown up with men dressed as women, as entertainment, and they have never had a problem with it. In fact, Danny LaRue had a primetime TV show. So drag is not new to the UK. So we are lucky. Places like America, that, I'm like, what the actual is going on? It's like, talk about your gun laws more. It's my oxygen. If I was ever performing, it would like I would stop living. I absolutely adore it. I'm an attention-seeking whore.